at the end of the day, everyone understands that our industry and the whole supply chain, that's what props up our economy. And again, just to drive it home again, you have to be at the table to talk about these things.
Freight doesn't move in silos, and neither should the conversation. Welcome to the Freight Table, a monthly podcast from the Intermodal Association of North America, connecting data, government affairs, and voices from across the intermodal supply chain. This is your pulse on what's changing now and what to watch next, where intermodal comes together.
Welcome to the Freight Table, where intermodal comes together. I'm David Garofalo with the Intermodal Association of North America. Each week, we bring together voices from across the intermodal supply chain, from ports and rail to motor carriers, logistics providers, and suppliers, to the same table to talk about what's happening now, what's shaping policy, and what's coming next. If you work in the industry or simply want a clearer picture of how freight moves, this is a place for real conversation and real insight, because intermodal transportation doesn't operate in a vacuum. So, our goal is in politics, it's clarity. What's happening, why it matters, and what IANA is watching on behalf of our members. So, Lucy, hello.
Hello.
Welcome. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you're our inaugural guest. How could I not be excited?
Really excited. Exciting. For sure.
So, I want to start because your position is relatively new to IANA.
It is.
And you've been with us how long now?
5 months.
5 months. I feel like you've been here forever.
I know.
You've done so much.
I've always worked here. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's only been 5 months, but I feel like we've done a lot.
I think we have. And that's a testament to kind of you and also kind of what's going on up on the Hill. Well, there's a lot of legislative activity.
There's a lot of stuff going on for sure.
So, you and I, we kind of, I've lived in DC now for about 40 years.
Yep.
And so, we live and die by politics.
We do.
A little too much, but it is what it is, right?
Too much at times, but we do. That's right.
So I think it's important for folks to understand, especially our members, because this is a new opportunity for their voice to be heard.
Yes.
And so kind of why is now a good time for IANA to be embarking on having someone in your shoes up on Capitol Hill?
I think that is such an important question, David, and it's something I kind of harp on all the time. It really is the way that you get your voice heard, whether it's you as an individual or your company or your association, or for that matter, there's even government affairs and within federal agencies themselves. So it's a way to be seated at the table. You want to make sure that lawmakers understand what your interests are, what your concerns are, what are the unintended consequences maybe of some legislation that they're proposing, or, even sharing the benefits. Mm-hmm. How will what they're doing impact the real world? And they depend on us for that, by the way. They want our input because up on the Hill, and this is not a pejorative thing at all, but they're generalists. Right. How can they have an expertise in absolutely everything? So that's why we're here. That's why we have a government affairs program and why we're up there talking about why intermodal is so important.
I couldn't agree with you more because it is the real world application of legislation that gets lost in the mix because
absolutely
legislation is words.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily get the nuances of what that means when you put it into practice.
Yeah,
so I think that's really an awesome, especially a case where intermodal is involved. It's complex already.
It is.
And there's a lot of moving parts and there are a lot of rules and regulations and just things that once you dive into it, it's not as simple as saying A, B, or C. It's more like what happens if you train A and B and C and C and D.
That's right.
And so
I agree, David. And what's really funny is, when I go to the Hill and talk with our lawmakers and their staff, and by the way, just so many smart people working in our government who are taking all of these complex issues. But do they know what intermodalism is? No.
Yeah.
But when you ask them, have you seen a shipping container? They know what that is. So again, that's our job, right? Boil these things down to the tangibles. Watch how, at IANA, we give them folders, and inside those folders, we have this little fold out. We'll have to show our members, we have a little fold out of how the box moves across the supply chain. that is a powerful tool right there. And it makes them understand, oh, right, that's how we get our stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
Everything touches a box, or almost everything. What is it? 95%?
95%. Yes.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot.
And I think it's, and I think, one of the other benefits too is that I don't think that, everyone thinks, well, it doesn't really affect my district. I don't have this in my district. But lo and behold,
they do.
First of all, do their constituents like things?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yes, they do. Don't we all?
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yes.
And, so I think but then there are other places that don't recognize the impact that the intermodal industry has on their districts because they're just not thinking about warehousing. They're not thinking about the rail tracks that go through it, or they're not thinking about, the suppliers, and they're not. Right. So it's vitally important for us to tell that story because sometimes that gets lost in the mix of everything else.
It is
of a very busy legislative agenda.
That's right.
So what have you found, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, what have you found most kind of interesting when you go and you talk to members and staff who may or may not be familiar with intermodal? What are their impressions?
I think that at first, if they're not familiar with this to begin with, at first it is a completely foreign concept. But again, we boil these things down, and then it just becomes this. I don't know. You sort of see the aha moment of, oh yes, wow, okay, this is something we really need to be looking at. And oftentimes, I'll go into an office with an agenda on another topic, and then some other. That's the beauty of intermodalism as well. Another mode gets pulled into the conversation, or, some other, I could be going in to talk about cargo theft and truck parking becomes the topic, right? So finding out what is it that certain members want to champion. And it can be very surprising sometimes. You think, well, they're not going to know anything about chassis. I'm just pulling a topic out there. They're not going to know anything about chassis. Well, guess that is like the heart and soul of that member is what happens to chassis.
Yeah.
It's very surprising. And they want to know these things. I think at the end of the day, everyone understands that our industry and the whole supply chain, that's what props up our economy. And again, just to drive it home again, you have to be at the table to talk about these things. They want to learn. They want to make sure. That's the beauty about transportation as well. It's such a bipartisan issue. It's hard to get political on moving goods and people getting their stuff.
Yeah. As I always like to say, I don't want to say we always like to say, but it's like we move the U.S. economy. That is what we do.
Yeah.
And people don't, until an issue, until something is backed up or something drastic happens, like a pandemic, they don't think about it. But then when they think about it, they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then they stop thinking about it again because it starts working again. So
exactly.
Kudos to everyone who's doing it every day, because I don't know how they do it, but
they make it look easy, don't they?
I don't know. I'm in awe. I'm in absolute awe.
I am too.
Every day. And I also think that it's interesting because I think you've made reference to a couple times you've gone in to meet with a member and you've actually found out they were truck drivers.
Yes.
That they have a strong transportation background.
Yes.
In their family. And I think it's the greatest thing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that must be just an instant connection.
It is an instant connection. And then it's an opportunity for IANA to get together with that office and push one of our priorities. That's how you find champions. And they're looking for it as much as we are. That's the cool thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, a win is a win is a win.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone wants.
Definitely.
So this is our first time out of the box where we're talking. And so this is going to become like a regular little cadence of like once a month, we're going to check in and see what's going on.
So glad.
And it's going to keep you honest and on your toes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Everyone can say, that's what she talked about last month.
Lucy. As I like to say, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Exactly.
I had to sneak that in. I want to set the bar, kind of give people kind of what is going on right now in this Congress.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of legislation that is due to be reauthorized. And I also know that there's a lot of percolating of other issues and some longstanding issues that things are changing. And so what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you experiencing? What are you watching?
So, top of list right now, David, is going to be cargo theft and supply chain fraud. I am so encouraged by the response of this Congress to respond to the call from the industry. Again, the industry has been up there, from us to name the mode to all of the various sectors of our industry, retailers. I mean, everybody, truck everybody is up there, because cargo theft and supply chain fraud, I think everyone's just had enough. So I have been so encouraged by Congress's response to this. So CORCA, the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act, is one of the main pieces of legislation that we've been watching really closely, and we've been up there talking to members about. And it has a lot of support in both chambers. That bill originated both in the Judiciary Committees of the House and the Senate. So I'm delighted to say that the House Judiciary Committee reported the bill out of the Judiciary Committee. So now it's before the full House for consideration. The Senate still has it in their Judiciary Committee. However, here's what I'm hearing. Because it has so much support, which, I mean, this day and age, to have something that everyone can agree on is amazing.
Absolutely.
And this really is something that could help America.
Sure.
So I think that the House recognizes that. They have widespread bipartisan support. So it could be that the House will suspend their procedural rules on passing a bill. And because it's just not controversial, it has so much support, they can pass something on suspension. So the Senate, from what I hear, and look, all of this can change the second we hit stop on this. Okay.
It's
So I don't want anyone. Yeah, exactly. I don't want anyone going to the bank with this.
Timestamp this.
Don't repeat what I'm saying. But the Senate has indicated, the Senate Judiciary Committee has indicated this is a top priority for them. And they too also, as soon as the House acts, they would like to move their bill out of the judiciary. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's so many factors, there's so many things that could happen. But if anything gets past this Congress, I could see it being this, which would be pretty amazing. Okay, David, so that's cargo theft. Another very important topic, another very important event, I'm going to call it, in Congress is the Surface Transportation Reauthorization.
Yes.
Very important. So
now I'm going to ask you a question about this, because I want to make sure that I understand it. And that's so surface transportation is now tied to the IIJA.
Yes.
So those provisions that were passed 2 years ago, right?
In 21.
In 21.
Right.
How time flies.
I know. It does. Yeah. So it's every 5 years.
So every 5 years.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at that legislation, and it's time to reauthorize.
Time to reauthorize it.
And so does that change the funding model, or is it an opportunity to increase or decrease the funding model? Or can they just rewrite the entire thing?
They can do whatever they want to do, right? So the Biden administration and Congress at the time worked together. It was really a bicameral, bipartisan effort. Huge. I always get this wrong, so I have to write it down. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. I always flip things around. The IIJA. It was historic funding to the tune of $550 billion for basically all these transportation infrastructure projects. So it really was historic levels of funding. And this Congress, I know everybody has their heads down. They are working on this very hard. I don't have any intel in terms of what they're drafting, what it says, anything like that. I just know that they are working very hard on it, both sides, Republicans and Democrats, and they really do want to get a bill passed. I don't think we'll see any proposed language until the spring, which I know we're sort of on the eve of spring with it March just around the corner.
Thank goodness. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, I know it. I can't take it anymore. But yeah, so we'll hopefully see some language in the springtime. And from there, what they're going to have on their plates to pass. Are they going to be able to pass a surface transportation reauthorization in time? I just don't know. There are also all kinds of proposals about how they will structure the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be a traditional surface transportation reauthorization? Will the Highway Trust Fund get some kind of a boost? Mm-hmm. Are there different ways that the Highway Trust Fund could be funded? All of these questions are not at the moment answerable, but I know that they are looking at various options. I'm not sure which one will stick. And my hat's off to all of those people who are, and companies and associations that are putting ideas forward. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of creative thinking. So we'll see. But we, IANA, we have our priorities. I'm up there on the hill talking about them all the time, but we have submitted them formally. And also, we just sent a letter up to the relevant committees like House Transportation and Infrastructure, Senate Commerce, Senate EPW, all of the relevant committees that have their hands in the surface transportation reauthorization on what is important for IANA. So we're looking at permitting reform, basically, so that infrastructure timelines and costs, we don't blow through the timelines, increase the costs because of all of the different things that get added on to,
That actually was a really fascinating
issue.
Point, because it added like from the time that the bill passed to now, if your project is just still getting started, your costs have increased 50%. By 50%. Yeah.
50%.
Just because of the cost of materials and labor.
That's right. Inflation has taken a hold.
It's a lot. That's you've got to ask for almost 1.5 times you asked for.
Yes.
Just as a bare minimum to get this job done.
100%.
So that's a huge issue that
it is
facing.
It is. And it is actually one of our asks of Congress. And they're aware of this as well. And I think that they're just trying to work that sort of economic reality out. Yeah. But for these intermodal infrastructure projects or any infrastructure project, if it's funded at the same level, you're only going to get up to that number. Yeah, you're not going to get completion. So
which
anyway,
doesn't work well for things like bridges.
Exactly. You can't build.
No.
You can't build 2/3 of a bridge.
No.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
It's a bad look. It's a bad look.
Bad idea. Bad idea. So So those are really important things. Also, traditionally, intermodal infrastructure projects just don't compete as well in our federal formula programs. Sure. So we're asking, there's a 30% cap on any kind of intermodal project. So we're asking for those caps to be removed. We want intermodal projects to be able to compete just like anything else. Sure. If these are nationally and regionally significant projects, well, let them move ahead. And the same goes for the competitive programs, where that's really where intermodal infrastructure projects are more successful in competing for those grants, those merit-based grants. Nonetheless, there's a 30% cap.
Of course.
So we are asking, please remove that cap and let these intermodal infrastructure projects just compete as anything else does. And moreover, we want all of those programs to be available. And I have to, again, look at my notes because it's so many acronyms.
I was going to say, there's a ton of them.
There's a ton of them. The Infrastructure for Rebuilding America program, INFRA. There's the National Infrastructure Project Assistance, MEGA, Port Infrastructure Development Program, and the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, that's known as CRISI. And also the Railroad Crossing Elimination Grant Program. I name all of those because I feel like if I do, they will gather some kind of momentum in the universe.
I like that.
And Congress will pass them.
I think is that like a mantra we should also we should start chanting at our desk?
It is. So I want all of our members out there who are listening, just
say the mantra.
Wake up in the morning. Just start that list because your cargo is going to move under these programs. We want this for ourselves. So You heard it here. We're going to make T-shirts.
T-shirts. We're gonna send out a podcast, just a little video that you can download and play every day.
QR code.
Light a candle.
Yeah, that's right. We need these things, you guys. We need these things.
Get your lucky 4-leaf clover out.
Yes.
And stand on one foot.
Absolutely.
And say this. Yes. Absolutely. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. So again, I wish I had, some kind of crystal ball at the moment, but I don't. It's just too early to be speculating like that. I know there are lots of people willing to do it. You have hired the wrong person. If you want me to do it, I'm not going to, because it's going to change tomorrow and whatever. So anyway, that's where we are now. Those are the big things, I think, for us in Congress. I'm not really too sure what else is going to move, David. There are plenty of important priorities that we have. I mean, we've got, I already talked about permitting reforms, but, we have a big protecting independent truck drivers platform.
Yeah.
And just today, the FMCSA gave us all a preview of their independent contractor rulemaking that they're about to put out. So it's 147 pages long. IANA is looking at it and is on it. We're looking at what changes they've made, but basically what they've indicated is that they're going to roll back the Biden era changes to the independent contractor, I'll call them standards rule, which was more employer leaning, and move it back to a more independent contractor position, which is what we want. We want people who choose to be independent contractors should be independent contractors.
Absolutely.
They've invested. This is how they are. This is how they work. And we fully support that. So we're encouraged. Again, I have not had a chance to go through everything line by line, but we will do that for IANA members. And I know there's a lot of coalitions and associations out there doing the same thing. So we will have a response to that. We will be participating in that rulemaking.
Look forward to hearing about that next month.
Defending our independent truck drivers. So that's a great thing that's moving before the FMCSA. I just don't know if anything's going to move on that in Congress. Simply, again, because there's just so many other things going on. It's not that it's not important. It is. And we're going to keep beating that drum and they want to hear it. It's just, will something actually become law? I just don't know. But we will have, who knows when this rulemaking will wrap up at FMCSA, but we'll have regulations around that. So that's good. Other issues we have before us as priorities at IANA, increasing the qualified truck driver pool. Again, that's another issue where we would like to see more young people get into trucking. Yeah. We would like for kids who aren't necessarily going to go on the college track, let's get them before they pick a trade school. Yeah. Obviously in intermodal, we have mostly short distances of drayage, but we also have member companies who drive those long distances. Yeah. And, we want to support any kind of programs or legislation that's going to enable these young people to do these interstate drives, obviously under rules and good training and all of that. But there are good jobs to be had for them. Absolutely. And we support that. Truck parking. That's something we recently
I think this one adopted. Is fascinating. Talk to me about that. Because I think this is one of those issues that it's kind of like, it makes perfect sense to support it. And it's such an important issue, but unless you really look at it, you don't understand its significance to the intermodal space and kind of how it really does, even though it's not an issue for our drivers necessarily, it affects the supply chain, which in turn really does. It does affect us. And so please, I want to, I think it's so exciting, so interesting.
I do too. It's another one of those issues.
And it's coalition building, right? It's
oh my God, you're so right, David. Yeah, it is.
It's an opportunity for IANA to kind of be out there and be a good partner.
Yes.
Where our support is absolutely appreciated. Yeah. And celebrated. And they're pleased that we're going to the table for this issue. 100%. But it's also, it's just building that goodwill and building that reserve of, there's going to be some point down the road where we may go to them and say, hey, you know what, we've got this issue that affects you tangentially or like the truck parking did for us. Yeah. But we'd love to have your support. And that is so much of what you're going back to what we started with is what are you up there doing? You're building coalitions. You're building these relationships that where issues, it may not necessarily be totally in my wheelhouse, but it does affect the supply chain. And so of course I want to be part of what you're doing as much as you want to be part of what I'm doing. And that's how you move you advance many ideas.
For sure. And I agree with you. Truck parking is absolutely one of those. This just came to us a couple of months ago, kind of through happenstance. It came to our president, Ann Reinke, and she has such an open approach to looking at any and all issues, because that's what our members
absolutely
expect from us to do, right? Is to go find those issues. So we thought, well, this is important. Again, it's one of those things where, like you said, David, you don't think about it, but I say all the time, if truckers aren't happy, no one's happy, because everyone wants their stuff. And that last mile is always a truck.
Absolutely.
Right? So what ends up happening is, especially for the long distance truckers, not so much our short haul intermodal or drayage people, but they've got to put their truck somewhere. And we're over 1 million spaces short. We have one space for every 11 truck drivers. Oof, it's staggering. So we've teamed up after actually a pretty big outreach campaign to a lot of our trucker members, just to kind of get their pulse.
I was just saying, talk to me a little bit about it. Because I talked about a great opportunity for our members to have their voices heard. Yeah. I think that is such a wonderful thing from my membership perspective. Yeah. It's like your outreach to members, asking for their input on actual legislation and actual things that are going on, and that they can have their voice heard, is phenomenal. And I'm so excited when we have these opportunities, and I'm so excited that you were able to do this. So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it was such a pleasure for me. I mean, really what I did was I just, we have so many trucker members. It's almost like an embarrassment of riches.
It is.
We have all of these experts who can weigh in. And I just reached out, started just going down the list, and I got to talk to a lot of our members. It was really such a privilege for me, just to hear their experiences. And our members will tell us, you're right on this, you're wrong on this. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to look out for. And I think across the board, again, even if this isn't like a direct intermodal trucking issue, it is a trucking issue. Therefore, like you said, it is a supply chain issue. Our concerns, our trucker members' concerns were safety. There are no safe places to park. We're here in Washington, D.C. Go drive down 95.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a rest stop 6 miles up the road from here. Yep. And every time you go by there, the trucks are parked on the highway.
There's no room.
There's no room.
There's no room, and there's nowhere else for them to go. And they have to go somewhere.
Exactly. They're required.
They are required to stop. Yes. They are required to rest. Hours of service kick in, and they kick in at the same time. Because we all appreciate the plight of the trucker. They have places to be at certain times, and when they clock out, they've got to park. They've got to throw it and park. So the safety issue is huge. Imagine having to park along a major highway. Imagine having to park your truck along an exit ramp, right? We had a member who I talked to from the Savannah area who said that, while his company is again, it's the intermodal side of things. There was a very serious accident that involved a trucker parked along an exit ramp, and that's going to gum up everything.
Absolutely.
And I feel for that trucker. Where else were they supposed to go?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so there's a little bit of an NIMBYism going on that I think is really troubling, because again, you want your stuff.
Yeah.
Treat those truckers with respect. That's how I can say,
at the end of the day, they're our neighbors. They're the people who are in our communities. They are doing their jobs. Yes. And why are we asking them to risk more than just their lives when they're driving the truck, but when they're parked, when they're resting, when they're supposed to be off duty. Right. And yet, how can you be off duty when you're parked on an exit ramp
Right.
And you have every car that goes by you, there's a possibility you could be hit.
There's a possibility you could be hit. Also, moreover, no services. What are you going to do?
No services.
No services, no amenities.
Yep.
How are you supposed to clean up? How can you easily go get a bite to eat? Just all these normal human things, stretch your legs.
Absolutely.
Another member of ours had said it really is unfortunate because we're missing out on a whole sector of people who could possibly be, fill that truck driver, all these positions. And that's women, right?
Absolutely.
It's
absolutely. Especially the intermodal, because
yes,
you got that short haul, you've got that and that's one of the things about drayage is, you're home at night.
You're home at night.
That's the big,
that's right.
It's a really positive.
Yeah, for sure. But these long distances.
Exactly. There are a lot of women who are in the profession.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I mean, that's just a whole.
It's a whole other thing. It really is.
Level. I mean, bad enough that, they don't have facilities that maybe perhaps at the regular truck stops that are safe and secure for women.
Exactly.
But then to have them parked on the side of the road, I mean, I would not wish that on any family member, like male or female.
Same.
Because it's just not, it's not respectful.
It's not.
It's not professional. It's not recognizing their professionalism.
No, none of us would tolerate it.
No,
why should they?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So we've been thrilled to champion this, and we're partnering up with the Truck Parking Club, and again talking to our members and just getting really smart on this issue. So I just ask our members to stay tuned. We'll have more on the truck parking front. It is also an issue that is getting the attention of Congress. In the last budget that was passed to fund the government, there was a set aside of $200 million for truck parking. Now, that's actually a drop in the bucket. That's not going to fund very many parking spaces. But at least it's attention to the issue. At least it is saying, this is important, because it is. And my hope is that, we can help build awareness with all of our, various trucking associations, with the Truck Parking Club and our trucking members, and just keep raising the importance of this and hopefully get some partnerships going. Lots going to have to be done on this also on the state and local level. There's a lot of ordinances against, where truckers can park.
Right.
So for various reasons.
Yes.
So that's an issue. But I will say, and I hear this often, the space is there.
Right.
It's just getting it.
Right.
So we are grabbing an oar on this one. IANA is grabbing an oar on this one. So
that's great.
Stay tuned, members.
Awesome.
And come to us. Come help us out.
I was going to say, I think that's a really important thing too, is let's touch on that, is that we really do want to hear from members. Right?
We do.
And so it's like whatever our members are hearing that they have a concern about what's going on. Yeah. They should be in touch with us.
Absolutely.
They should be reaching out to IANA. They should be reaching out to you. They should be reaching out to me.
Anytime.
Reaching out to any one of us staff members who can channel that information. Yeah. Because that's, again, going back to what you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. Right. And we can't be experts on everything.
That's right.
So it's got to be funnel that information up to us.
And boy, we have some experts.
Yeah. And that's part of it too, is because it's an ever changing landscape. Yeah. And what, I always like to say too is, if one company is having this issue, that means that there's probably 100, 200, 300, 400 who are having the same issue but haven't articulated it.
I agree.
Either. And that's the beauty of IANA, is that someone, as soon as it comes to the table, something like, oh, let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about suddenly it opened, like you did with your truckers. You made the call, not knowing what you were going to get. But as soon as you started talking, you were like, there's a there.
Yeah. For sure.
And that changed kind of the paradigm of how we looked at that issue.
Absolutely. A lot of enthusiasm. Yeah. I appreciate everybody I talk to. There's still some people I need to talk to, and hopefully everybody knows, like you said, just reach out to us. Yeah. We're here to,
that's what we're here to
bring the issues. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we've covered a couple topics.
We sure have.
What is there, like, anything else? Like, what's any good scuttlebutt? Anything that, like, anything? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
So the president introduced a maritime
action plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where does that play in? Is that another way for funds to be raised for infrastructure, or is it another way for, I haven't read the whole thing, and I've read just a couple news articles.
Sure.
But I'm wondering, what have you been hearing up on the about that?
here's how I see the Maritime Action Plan, and especially, having come from the Federal Maritime Commission.
Absolutely. You're
where I
familiar
worked
with this.
That's right. I worked there before I came here to IANA, have worked extensively in that whole maritime regulatory world. What I am hopeful about is that there is any attention to maritime at all, because we did go many decades without that attention.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I think it took the supply chain crisis during the pandemic to raise awareness of how we remember the ships that went out out to the horizon.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I
in
remember
LA,
standing in Long Beach and going,
exactly.
There are a lot of ships out there.
There are a lot of ships out there. That's right.
Yeah.
And for that attention to be called to, what is the state of maritime in this country?
Yeah.
And where do we need to build it? And the value of having that maritime infrastructure.
Absolutely.
It is really important to our defense, obviously. And it's we've all experienced it firsthand, how many people couldn't get what they needed during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a reality. If those systems don't work, you don't get your stuff. Again, it all goes back to getting our stuff. Right? And there's a lot of it. But that's what I'm encouraged about with the Maritime Action Plan. I am still kind of waiting to see, obviously I've read through it and am talking through it with various professionals, all of us, the DC people who are kind of looking at this stuff, figuring out, okay, well, what does this exactly mean for the supply chain? But for me, I'm just glad that it's that's what we're talking about. I'm glad it's in the conversation. Yep. I'm glad it's on everyone's radar. That in and of itself is progress. Just bringing attention to the fact that we need to bolster our whole maritime presence, either commercially or what, other reasons.
Right.
It's important.
Yeah. And it's attention to the supply chain. And I mean, I think that
to the supply chain.
as they look at, as I always like to say, when you look at one part of the supply chain, especially with intermodal, you've got to look at the whole supply chain. So if you're improving one part of it, you better improve the rest of the chain.
The whole chain.
Because otherwise it's just not going to function.
That's right.
You're going to gum it up.
Yeah.
And we all know what that looks like. So
we all know what that looks like.
So I think this has been a tremendously interesting conversation.
Thank you, David.
To be continued. Next month.
For sure. I look forward to it.
But I do want to thank you for your time. And I
absolutely.
And say that so fantastic to have someone on the Hill who's doing such a great job. I really would like you to start wearing, and maybe you do, and you just haven't shared how many steps you do a day. Oh,
I can clock up to 12,000 average. Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. A really healthy profession, being a lobbyist.
Marble floors, though. Woof.
I know. You got to have the right footwear, dude.
You got to have the right. And when they get wet, woo, watch out. It is I have had many of.
Yeah. It's all in the core.
Solid core it is.
Solid core it is.
Lucy, thank you so very much.
Thank you, David.
And
Great
it's been
to
a pleasure.
Talk to you.
And to everyone out there, thank you very much for tuning in and listening. This was the Freight Table, the inaugural episode presented by the Intermodal Association of North America. I'm David Garofalo. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in a month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.